right, I think we can make a start. Welcome, everyone. Well, we have about 59 people as when I checked last who registered for today's event. We hope that many of them are able to join us. So at the moment, we've got about 21 people on the live call here, but also this event is being live streamed on the African Theatre Association YouTube channel. So I know there are some people who will be watching on that platform as well, who we wouldn't be able to see here. But so we have quite a few people who are interested in today's ceremony. Welcome everyone. My name is Kene Iguono. I'm the president of the African Theatre Association. I'm so pleased on behalf of myself, the executive board, and the members of the African Theatre Association to have so many of you join us today for the first formal ceremony we're having, the citation ceremony we're having to induct honorary members. So it's a very auspicious occasion for the African Theatre Association. Like I said, this is the first time we're having a formal event to mark the award of the title of the honorary member of the African Theatre Association on our distinguished colleagues here. The schedule is going to be a very short one, so we're aiming to spend about an hour and a quarter today or thereabout. So we hope you will bear with us. We know that a lot of people would have had a very busy day already, so please do bear with us. The schedule is going to run, so we're going to have next the General Secretary of the African Theatre Association, who is going to do an introduction about the African Theatre Association. And after that, we're going to go straight into the induction ceremony. So we're going to have citations read by different members of the executive board for our 4 honorees. After that, after each citation, we're going to invite each honoree to give a brief word of advice to their younger selves. We recognize that there are many theater scholars, practitioners in Africa and all around the world who are Africanists, who are very keen to develop their career just like everyone else is. But often people find when they're starting out that they meet a lot of challenges along the way. So we're going to have our distinguished honorees today giving us tips on how we can progress our careers. Just to say that the honorary membership of the African Theatre Association is an award given by the association to distinguished colleagues around the world, not necessarily members of the African Theatre Association, but people who have made significant contribution to the study or practice of African theatre and performance, African cultures, and Africa in general. So, so today we are very pleased to have our honorees who have a distinguished career behind them, but also have so much to contribute to our field, even going forward. So without further ado, I'm going to check, is Tiziana on the call?
Yes.
Tiziana is Tiziana there? Hello, Shala.
Yes, she's there.
Great. So Tiziana, I'm going to hand over to you. I think you can share your screen. Let me just
unmute yourself.
If I stop sharing so that we can.
Sorry for that. Hi. Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm Tiziana Molosetti. I'm the General Secretary of the African Theatre Association. I'm very pleased to be here. This is the first event of the sort that we host, and it is a great pleasure, really, it's a great honor, really, to have so many distinguished guests. I will be introducing very briefly the association for you. Let me see if I can share my screen. Let me see if I can do that. Share.
Yep.
Yeah, is it? Yeah, that's good. So let me see if I can do a slideshow so it's a bit more evident. Yeah, from the beginning. Right. So our association was started with Professor Osita Okagbue in 2006. We are an association that tries to gather together not only theatre makers, but everyone that is interested in African theatre. We try to be as open as possible to any new trends of African theatre. So we try also to facilitate the communication between African theatre makers, scholars, and communities, not only in Africa, but in the UK and elsewhere. The governance, as you can see, it is an association that basically relies on the executive board, but also on the General Assembly. So we share with all our members what we do, and we very often host votes on our decisions. Here you have the 5 executive officers, myself, Charles as Vice President, Ken as President, Shola as Treasurer, and then Annette as membership. But not less valuable is the contribution, of course, of the other members of the Executive Board, among whom also the editor of the APR, our main publication. The membership is open, as I said, to academics, practitioners, researchers, students. We have tried to conceive the membership as something that is as inclusive as possible. So in that respect, we have a subscription that is different according to where members are based. And we have a different membership for students as well. Every member has access to a global network of African scholars. More practically, they receive a discount on our annual conferences, and also they receive the Association Journal African Performance Review, which is in many ways, well, the only journal with that kind of rationale. Now, we try to meet in person as much as possible, even these days. So the association started with a symposium in 2006, which was held at Goldsmiths in London. But then the annual conferences, as you can see, with the exception of 2008, when we didn't host one, try to gather scholars from as many universities as possible. We always try to have at least one conference in Africa every 2 years where possible. So we've been to Kampala, we've been to Cape Town, to Ghana, to Abuja, and last year in Rwanda, in Angola. But we also try to involve other realities, so not just the UK, but for example, the Americas. The forthcoming conference will be hosted by the Humboldt University in Berlin, between 15 and 17 July 2021. This year we couldn't host it, it should have been there, but we had a very valuable symposium, which was really quite successful. So we tried, as I said, to keep contact even in these difficult times. And the themes that we try to explore are many, in the sense that we try to give each annual conference a meaningful theme, which is specific, but at the same time welcomes different contributions from a number of perspectives. The forthcoming conference, for which I believe the abstracts are still welcome, will be exploring aging, old age, and disability in African performance, tackling subjects that are very relevant today. So, for example, what are the nuances of performances that are based on aging, old age, and disability, but also the idea of aging in relation to sexuality, gender, ethnicity, and nationality. Our publication, African Performance Review, is a peer-reviewed journal, which is published twice a year, as you can see. It is, we try to host as many innovative publications as possible. We accept inquiries and we accept abstracts from around the world at any stage of publication. So we don't just publish established scholars, but also emerging scholars. here you have also an example of 3 volumes that we've been publishing so far, and explore different views. Diaspora on the one hand, innovation, creativity and social change, and rethinking drama and theater in Africa. So when we're talking about Africa here, we're not just talking about only strictly African performance, but we tend to include as much as diasporic reflection as possible. So this is it. I'm not sure whether there is any stop sharing. There is any question or anything that we can say at this point. Otherwise, I will hand over to Kenneth. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tiziana, for that excellent introduction about the African Theatre Association. Just to say, we're going to have a slight change to the order of citation. So we're going to go straight to start with, we're supposed to start with David Grindo, but we're going to go to Kathy Perkins' citation. So I'm going to invite Annette, if you're ready, to read the citation, and then we'll carry on with the program. So Professor Annette Beladrutuj.
Hello, everybody. I'm honored to read out the citation for Professor Kathy Perkins tonight or tomorrow on Kathy's End. Kathy A. Perkins is a lighting designer and scholar. She has designed throughout the US with such theaters as Goodman, Arena Stage, Berkeley Repertory, Yale Repertory, St. Louis Black Repertory, The Court, Congo Square, Steppenwolf, Seattle Rep, Mark Taper, and Actors Theatre of Louisville. Her designs have been seen throughout South Africa, in Johannesburg, Durban, Cape Town, and the Grahamstown Festival. On the continent, she has lectured and presented lighting workshops in such countries as Uganda, Kenya, Ghana, Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Senegal. Kathy Perkins is the editor of 6 anthologies, including Black South African Women and African Women Playwrights, in addition to serving as a senior editor for the Routledge Companion to African American Theater and Performance. A receipt of numerous research and design awards, including Fulbright National Endowment for the Humanities and an NAACP Image Award, Kathy has traveled to over 40 countries, both for her work in lighting and as a scholar. In 1995, she curated the exhibition On Stage, A Century of African American Stage Design at New York's Lincoln Center, and was theater consultant for Taking the Stage exhibition at the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, opening in 2016. Kathy Perkins received her BFA in drama from Howard University and her MFA in lighting design from the University of Michigan. Today, she is Professor Emerita at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Even though Kathy's own work as a lighting designer is not covered in the Routledge Companion to African American Theater and Performance, many of the important people and institutions she worked with feature in the book. I am convinced she herself has considerably influenced African American theater during the last 4 decades with her lighting designs, her research, teaching, and mentoring. Her anthologies on women playwrights in Africa and the US were an outstanding contribution to the field of research on women playwrights and brought these plays to a wider public. It is my great honor to confer the title of Honorary Member of the African Theatre Association on Kathy Perkins today.
Thank you, Annetta. Greetings to everyone in cyberspace. I'd like to thank the African Theatre Association Board for this wonderful honor. I'm also thrilled to be here with my fellow honorees. My journey into African theater began in 1979, where I had an opportunity to design lighting for several exiled South African artists living in the New York City area. They produced wonderful plays and musicals that were full of passion and energy, but they were all written by men. I never brought this issue up, but I always wondered, where were the women? 6 years later, I relocated to the West Coast and lost track with many of my friends, my artist friends. But I still maintain a tremendous interest in South African theater. I credit these young men for the initial part of my journey to African theater. Many of them will return to South Africa after apartheid and become major figures in theater and TV. I also credit American Airlines for a major part of my journey, literally. By 1995, I had accumulated thousands of frequent flyer miles, traveling to and from various projects throughout the States. And I decided one day I need to take a big trip somewhere. A few days later, I opened the New York Times, and there was this big 2-page ad by American Airlines. South Africa is waiting for you. In essence, the ad said American Airlines had teamed up with South African Airways for a limited, unbelievable, frequent flyer deal from Miami to Cape Town, the world's longest nonstop flight on record, 16 hours. I just stared at the ad, thinking this is divine intervention, or maybe it was the 16 hours that had me staring. Within a few days, I booked my free ticket for 2.5 weeks in June to South Africa. I didn't know anyone in South Africa. I had no idea where I was going other than to Cape Town Airport. Didn't know that June was the coldest month in South Africa. So I just stepped out on faith. I began telling everybody I knew, I'm going to South Africa. Do you know anybody over there? I need a place to stay. And as fate would have it, I began getting calls from people saying, so-and-so is on a Fulbright in Joburg, you can stay there. So-and-so is on a Fulbright in Durban. And then I had a friend who had a contact at the State Department, which ended up being the most incredible contact ever. Through the State Department, I was able to travel to 4 of the major cities in South Africa. They had me do lighting workshops. I did lectures on African-American theater. They had me going to townships, universities, theaters, dance companies, and I also presented at the State Department. People were very excited about my background in technical theater, as there was a desperate need to train young Black South Africans who had been denied this type of knowledge during apartheid. Although I had not planned to embark on research on African women, I would have women come up to me after the events to further discuss my research on African American women. And they shared how they too felt invisible in South Africa as writers. A few of them even asked if I could help them publish their work, which is how this all began. As fate would have it, I was invited to return to Johannesburg the following summer for about 3 months to teach lighting, stage management, and design a show at one of the state theaters. This gave me the opportunity to start interviewing and researching women writers, which eventually became my first anthology, Black South African Women, although they're both men and women in the collection. This time also allowed me to work with many young people who would later pursue a career in lighting or stage management. Over the next 24 years, with funding from my universities and various national funding organizations, I found myself traveling to an additional 14 countries, meeting with playwrights, playmakers, and storytellers, and collecting amazing stories focusing on the lives of African women. I continue to design and conduct workshops, often bringing my graduate students with me to assist, which was an opportunity for a lifetime for most of them. I also recruited students from the continent to join my graduate lighting program. Since my first trip to Africa in 1995, I have so many people to thank along my journey, too many to list, but I must acknowledge the late scholar Rosemboa of Uganda, along with actor scholar Dr. Amadina Lahamba of Tanzania. Both of these women played a crucial role in theater for development on the continent, as well as elevating the image of African women in the arts. Both were instrumental in my research and the completion of my African Women anthology. I also want to thank producer, director, arts administrator, Ishmael Mohammed, who was my go-to person for so many projects in South Africa for over 20 years. And of course, I have to thank the US State Department and American Airlines. Finally, I was asked to say something to the young people in the audience. Follow your passion, follow your instinct. Don't be afraid to reach out to people whose work you admire. If they say no, move on to someone else. The most important thing is to find a mentor. I would not be where I am without incredible mentors. You need to communicate with someone who has been where you're trying to go. The beauty of the internet is that you can reach people anywhere. Thanks to the internet, I now have young mentors, mentees all over the world. I look forward to returning to Africa on the other side of COVID. Thank you again, AFTA, for this honor.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we can give a silent clap to Professor Kathy Perkins for this very well-deserved award from African Theatre Association. We're so pleased to have you as an honorary member of the association. All right, so moving on, I know many people will be itching to ask questions. Unfortunately, we're not going to take questions for honorees today, but we'll have other opportunities to invite them back and for them to talk to us, and we can ask questions then. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to invite Professor Zeninga, Praise Zeninga, who is going to read the citation for David Grindle. So, Professor Zeninga, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning and good day, everybody, wherever you are, and welcome to this wonderful event. It is an honor and a pleasure to read this citation for honorary member of AFTA, David Grindle. David Grindle is Executive Director of the United States Institute for Theater Technology, USITT, a position he has held since 2010. USITT is the Association for Performing Arts and Entertainment Professionals. It was founded in 1960 as an organization to promote dialogue, research, and learning among practitioners of theater design and technology. Today, it has grown to include over 6,000 members at all levels of their careers and has embraced new technologies being used in entertainment. As Executive Director of USIT, Mr. Grindle has worked diligently to connect African artists and practitioners to their contemporaries in the USA and worldwide. Mr. Grindle has a record of successful fundraising projects and volunteer work. His background in theater, opera, academia, and association management emblemizes his versatility in the creative industry. He was adjunct professor at Lemoyne College in New York, production manager at Indiana University, Bloomington, stage manager at the Atlanta Opera, among other positions in the industry. Mr. Grindle's commitment to the advancement of African theater and performance is reflected in a recent memorandum of understanding between USIT and AFTA. The Memorandum of Understanding facilitates mutual exchange of knowledge in the world of entertainment, design, and technology between both organizations, as well as cooperation on joint research activities, exchange of speakers and practitioners, and more significantly, joint donation and shipment of books to African universities, libraries, and every other institution that is seeking to add to collections on entertainment, design, and technology. Help me welcome Mr. Grindle to the club.
Thank you, Professor. And thank you to the executive committee and to the membership of AFTA. I'm humbled to receive this honor from you, and even more humbled to receive this recognition and along with my colleagues here. They are amazing established professionals to have my name associated with them it's an honor, along with what you're giving in this membership. I must thank your president, who took a random email from an American who said, "I'm coming to London. Can we meet and talk about our associations? Maybe we could work together." And what started as a quick bite of lunch and some coffee left us down a road of partnerships that I think are going to be wonderful for everyone involved. The opportunity to engage with our colleagues across Africa and across the world who specialize in the theater of Africa is frankly a missed opportunity for our association for many years. And I'm very excited that we're now able to do this. I was asked to share with you what advice I might give my younger self based on what I know today. And when I think back on the boy who grew up on a farm in the mountains of the American South, I remember watching airplanes fly overhead and wanting to be on them, to go to places that I had only ever heard of. And the places were exciting, but what I didn't know and would want to tell that boy is that it's the people in those places that will make the difference in your life. The people will spark creativity. They'll teach you to be a better person, and they'll partner to open doors of opportunity for you and for many others through you. I'd tell that young person that those people in the far off places you dreamt about will change your life, because they'll show you how big the world is and how small the world is, all at the same time. And they'll share with you ideas that'll stretch your thinking and understanding. They'll make you question yourself and your motives and your dreams, and not in bad ways. The people will give you an opportunity to learn about them and their world, which will teach you about you and yours. And if you embrace that, you're going to develop colleagues and friendships that will outlast any one production, any one company, or even any one career path. I'm honored to have been able to forge a partnership between USITT and AFTA, because I know there are so many colleagues across the AFTA membership that I and all of my USITT colleagues can connect with and learn from, and that we can build a meaningful relationship and dialogue that enriches us all as theater makers and as people. On one hand, I am really sad that it has taken us to now to develop this collegial partnership. But on the other, I'm still kind of excited as that boy watching airplanes and imagining all of the exciting places our two organizations can take each other and each of us personally as we enjoy one another's company and discover the joy that grows from working together as artists and as people. I look forward to the exchange of ideas, for sharing people writing in our journals, for the building of library collections, and expanding the world of understanding through this partnership, both professionally and personally. It's been a personal goal of mine in my position to build this bridge, and now I commit to making it a bridge open for all to cross in both directions to enjoy the benefit of that partnership. I was originally supposed to bring boxes of books to Nigeria, and then we had a world pandemic. The boxes of books are still coming. Actually, there are more boxes now than there were when I was supposed to travel in May. But that is one way we're going to be able to engage with each other, because I know that there's so much to learn about how to be a creative human. And I look forward to being one of the ways, as Kathy Perkins just had noted, the ability to connect people is the best part of our world. So I look forward to that time after the pandemic when we can safely travel and meet again. And I wish all of you safety and health during this time. I look forward to that time of gathering, hopefully in Berlin next summer, if not sooner, where we can celebrate the richness that is our common bond. So again, thank you to you all and blessings on you all as we live this world together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, those words. We're going to go straight on. I'm going to welcome all the honorees at the end, so I'm not going to be doing that individually. So we're going to go straight on to our next honoree. And I'm going to invite the treasurer of the association, Dr. Shola Adeyemi, who is going to do the honors. So you want to unmute? Yeah.
Yes, I've unmuted. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Temple Optfleisch is Professor Emeritus of Drama at Stellenbosch University in South Africa. A sociolinguist, drama teacher, theater manager, playwright, and theater researcher, historian and archivist. Temple was born in Bloemfontein to George Stephanus Optfleisch and Catharina Daphina Optfleisch, née Du Plessis, in June 1945. He had his schooling at Grey College in Bloemfontein, and after a year as an exchange student with American Field Service, which is now AFS Intercultural Programs, at Matthew Point High in Oregon, USA, completed a BA in English and Latin and a BA Hons in English in 1969 at the University of the Orange Free State. Further studies at the University of South Africa, UNISA, led to an MA in English in 1972 on Greek dramatic conventions in modern drama, and a doctorate in 1978 with the title, The Play as Communication, a Study of the Language of Drama. Professor Optfleisch became a teacher at Grey College, his alma mater, in 1968, where he co-founded the Grey College Dramatic Society with Charles Malan in 1969. In 1972, he joined the Human Sciences Research Council in Pretoria as sociolinguist, and from 1978, head of the National Documentation Center for the Performing Arts, which he later refocused and repurposed and called the Center for South African Theatre Research. From 1988 to 1994, he was a senior lecturer and researcher at the University of Stellenbosch Drama Department, lecturing on theater history and theory, and running workshops in playwriting. In 1994, he founded the Center for Theater and Performance Studies. He became professor and elected chair of the department, a post he held for 10 years from 1995 to 2005, and the director of the Hendrik Bernadotte Thom Theater from 1995 to 2003. After the end of his term as head of department, Temple served as research professor and director of the Center for Theater and Performance Studies for 4 years until 2009. He retired from the university as emeritus professor in 2010 to devote his time to Encyclopedia of South African Theatre, Film, Media and Performance, and other research and theatre projects. Professor Optfleisch is a co-founder and founding editor-in-chief of the South African Theatre Journal and author of the book, Theatre and Society in South Africa, Reflections in a Fractured Mirror, published in 1997. He's a member of the editorial boards of Themes in Theatre, Collective Approaches to Theatre and Performance, Transnational Theatre Histories, African Performance Review, the Journal of African Theatre Association, Critical Perspectives, and Critical Stages. Temple is a member of many academic societies, including being a founding member and first secretary of the South African Association for Drama and Youth Theatre, founder and former chair of the South African Society Theatre Research from 1999 to 2002, member of the executive of the International Federation for Theatre Research, IFTR, and member of the International Advisory Board for the Marvin Carlson Theatre Center at the Shanghai Theatre Academy. Temple is married to Karina Lubeka, and the couple have 2 children. Now, having published more than 80 works on the history of South African theatre, theatre research, methodology, and the sociology of theatre over the course of the past 40 years, including numerous encyclopedia entries on aspects of South African theatre and performance for international publishers, including also 8 book-length publications, it is my honor to present to you Professor Temple Upfleisch, Bro, as an honorary fellow of the African Theatre Association.
Okay, now to open up mute. No. Hi, yeah, thank you very much, Ola. That's an immense honor for me. I've never been, I've started out as a sort of an old style colonial academic doing English. Never thought I'd ever end up here being fated for having contributed to theatre in the first place, because I hadn't studied theatre, and secondly, particularly in Africa. But this was inevitable. You lived in this country, you became aware of the immense variety of our theatre, in this complex society where you have so many cultures and things. And it became clear to me when I took over the archive that absolutely the whole thing had been set up to focus on European theatre or American European theatre. We did a lot of it in South Africa, we did it well, but there was a whole history being ignored, 2,000 years of it. And it was that, and I met up with a few colleagues in South Africa, Ian Stedman, who helped me co-found the journal, for instance, who was studying Black theatre in the townships around Johannesburg, for instance. And from there, we started slowly, looking at that. But the key thing was that we were in a period when I started out in actually shifted into theatre, there was this whole paradigm shift in theory and methodology, but it hadn't quite landed in Africa yet. And so there was a lot of techniques being tried out, which didn't quite fit with what was actually happening in terms of performance in our part of the world, on the continent. And that's become the thing that's always fascinated me. And that's really what's driven my career there. I have 2 major interests. The one is systems theory. So I'm interested in the way social systems work. And I've tried to apply that to theatre. Now that was, let's say, the theoretical part of my life. The other one was from 5 years old, I think. I was fascinated by encyclopedias. The idea that you could gather together all the information you need in one volume or in some kind of form where it can then be interpreted and used and so on. And it became very clear that we've never had an encyclopedia on South African theatre. We've never had an encyclopedia on African theatre. You've had entries on African theatre in encyclopedias. I mean, Don Rubin's wonderful series of encyclopedias, for instance, very useful. But they were written by a few people who wrote about what they knew, but there's no kind of encompassing thing. And so my retirement job, which I took on and now has been to try and set up a kind of online open access resource. And thank goodness the universities backed me on that. We got hold of the Wiki program, so it's written in Wiki and so on. So that was the one side of it. The other side is I'm not a young man anymore, and this thing's never going to end, because as we all know, theater is a vastly complex thing. I always use the illustration, you take one program of a theater program and you start writing, then you're going to have biographies of all the actors, all the writers, all the technicians, and from there, then everything they've done becomes an entry, and so on and so on. And it just explodes in your face. But at the same time, it's the most fun I've ever had in my life, writing up this stuff. So, and I've done it with the help of enormous numbers of people and been inspired by many. One's name keeps cropping up here, and that's Yvette Hutchison, who co-founded the thing with me and then has left the country and went elsewhere, and we still work on it together. But there are many other people who have inspired me and helped me in this. And so this is the sort of background that I come from, but I cannot express my gratitude for this recognition, because I feel it's recognition for all these people who've worked on establishing a much wider, broader, more equitable interpretation of what constitutes African theatre and South African theatre. Because Kathy was saying she found that there were very few women, for instance. It's changed vastly now. So, and it's because of those interests, you know. So I would, but the recognition, this kind of recognition is going to be immensely useful. And it's wonderful to tell my colleagues, we've been seen and been recognized for what we've been doing. And for that, the ATA, I admire the work you're doing and trying to do. The aims are wonderful. And if I can help it, or the system that I'm setting up can be of any use and we can liaise on this, I would be very, very appreciated very much. Thank you, Kenny, and everybody else involved for this honor.
Thank you very much, Professor Temple. Thank you so much, everyone. Yes. All right, so we go on to our last honoree for today. I'm going to invite the Assistant General Secretary of the African Theatre Association, Dr. Oladipo Agboluaje, to do the honors. I think you may be on mute, Dipo.
Thank you, Kenny. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sandra L. Richards is Professor Emerita at Northwestern University, having taught for more than 25 years in the African American Studies and Theatre departments. During that time, she advised students who produced doctoral dissertations and subsequently other productions on theatre and performance in Ghana, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Cape Verde, South Africa, and the Senegalese and Ethiopian diasporas in the US. From 2012 to 2017, she served as the founding director of the Liberal Arts Program at Northwestern's campus in Qatar. With research specialties in African American drama, African theatre and drama, African diaspora theatre and drama, Professor Richards has authored Ancient Songs Set Ablaze, The Theatre of Femi Osofisson, and numerous articles on a range of Black dramatists. Professor Richards is co-editor with Sandra Shannon of the MLA Handbook of Approaches to Teaching the Plays of August Wilson. She was also part of the editorial team of Kathy A. Perkins, Renee Alexander Kraft, and Thomas F. DeFrance that produced the Routledge Companion to African American Theatre and Performance in 2018. From 2001 to 2004, Professor Richards held the Leon Forrest Professorships of African American Studies that supported research and publication on issues of cultural tourism to slave sites throughout the Black Atlantic. In 2007, the Association for Theatre in Higher Education recognized Professor Richards as an outstanding teacher of theatre in higher education, while the American Society for Theatre Research honored her with its Outstanding Scholar Award in 2017. She holds a PhD in drama from Stanford University and a BA in English and French literatures from Brown University. At the 2015 AFTA conference at Loyola Marymount, Los Angeles, Professor Richards offered a keynote probing the relationship between intellectual agendas and methods of categorizing African diaspora. At our 2012 conference in Cape Town, she presented a paper on representations of Africa on Chicago stages from 2006 to 2012. Most recently, she queried the representation of Africa in August Wilson Plays and Scholarship at the 2020 Biennial Colloquium of the August Wilson Society. Over a long, distinguished career, Professor Richards has also published other essays such as Introduction, Citizen and Artist, Women Making Theatre in African Theatre, Contemporary Women, Functions at the Junction, African Diaspora Studies and Theatre Studies in the African Diaspora and Disciplines, Space, Water, Memory, Slavery and Beaufort, South Carolina, in Cultural Dynamics, Insurgent Scholarship on Culture, Politics and Power, Landscapes of Memory, representing the African Diaspora's return home in Africa and Transatlantic Memories, Literary and Aesthetic Manifestations of Diaspora and History. Who is this ancestor? Performing Memory in Ghana's Slave Castle Dungeons, in the Sage Handbook of Performance Studies. Wasn't Brecht an African writer? Parallels with contemporary Nigerian drama in the Brecht Yearbook. And finally, Nigerian Independence on Stage, Responses from Second Generation Playwrights in Theatre Journal, May 1987. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Sandra L. Richards.
Thank you very much, Deepo, for that introduction. And thank you to the members and to the officers of the African Theater Association for this honor. I want to tell you a little bit about the people who have helped me to arrive at this point. So the people I've brought with me, so to speak. In 1892, the African-American educator Anna Julia Cooper wrote that wherever she, a singular Black woman, entered, the whole race accompanied her. I take inspiration from that insight. Despite the risk of possibly offending some through omission, I want to acknowledge some of the people who have traveled with me to arrive at this award. My study of African theater begins sort of funnily enough with my reading novels steeped in Afro-Brazilian religion, and then visiting the state of Bahia on a tour led by anthropologist and Professor Sheila Walker. I returned from Brazil thinking, I have to go to Nigeria. The late Professor Sonny Oti, who headed the theater department at the University of Jos, was instrumental in my securing a Fulbright Award. But for logistical reasons that I don't quite remember anymore, I ended up going instead to the University of Benin, where playwright and professor Femi Oshofison was the new HOD, or head of department. He allowed me to read scripts he was still writing, to watch rehearsals, and to read his essays that in this pre-computer age of the mid-1980s often circulated by hand. Most importantly, he was patient in answering my why or how come kinds of questions. And as some of you undoubtedly know, Oshofison and his buddies like Biodun Jeyofu were also fierce, principled critics of Nigerian, African, and international politics. Lessons learned in Nigeria appear both in my book on Femi Oshofison, Ancient Song Set Ablaze, and in essays like Yoruba Gods on the American Stage. Northwestern's Institute for the Advanced Study and Research in the African Humanities also enters with me today, in part in the person of poet and academic Kofi Anyidoho of the University of Ghana, Legon. He and I were co-directors on a project retracing slave routes in West Africa. His skillful orchestration of the Africa portion of the project inspired me to pursue and write on the diaspora's return to the continent. I want also to acknowledge that graduate students were also my teachers, though I concede that I did not necessarily share with them the extent to which they were teaching me rather than I teaching them. One set of lessons centered on African students' use of the passive voice. Now, as you know, generally American English prefers an active voice that registers who did what to whom. That is, unless the perpetrator is a government entity intent upon minimizing its harmful agency. I remember saying once in exasperation to a student who will remain nameless in this story, "You have told me that the passive voice is often closer in register to indigenous African languages, but you are writing a dissertation on political theater. The agents have to be identified. Surely your mother tongue has strategies to name who did what to whom." This interaction led to the students crafting a rich analysis of the ways in which locals often observe, respect, yet through indirection, identify perpetrators and push for justice and repair. Now, this experience would prove a valuable lesson for me later when I was writing about African-American tourism to sites in Ghana. I remember being enraged when I heard a guide at Elmina Castle Dungeon say, "The women were found to be in a family way." As a descendant of enslaved people, I wanted that brutality and its perpetrators named directly. But in writing about this experience, I recalled those dissertation conversations. I realized that though the Ghanaian guide and I were both speaking English, our frames of reference, our cultural organization of the world was different. And it would constitute a rich area as well as a challenge for any diasporic return. I point out this experience in order to give texture to the debt I owe to my former students and to colleagues. I thank you for the ways in which you embraced and taught me. I thank the African Theater Association for this recognition that apparently I have learned some of my lessons well and conveyed those insights to others.
Well, thank you so much. Sorry for the delays. Wow, thank you so much for that. Where am I? Oh, great. All right. So just want to, so it's really to me now just to welcome our honorees. So on behalf of the African Theatre Association and all the membership, I want to say welcome to all our honorees. I want to just acknowledge the deep contributions you've made to the subject, just like we've all heard this evening or morning, depends on where you've joined us from. But I also want to acknowledge that you still have a lot to give. So the honorary membership of the African Theatre Association is not given in recognition of just past achievements, but it's also given in recognition of the many more contributions that we know that you've got here to give. So we're looking forward to your contribution as a guide really to our membership, as our senior colleagues, as people who have a vast amount of experience that you can contribute to developing some of the younger scholars and practitioners in African theatre and performance. I just want to put up the honorees one more. So I'm going to just give me a minute. I'm going to put up the videos of all our honorees, and then we can give a clap. You're welcome to do a loud clap or a silent clap if you want to. Just to give me a minute to do that, if I can manage to do it. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, here are honorees. Please join me in giving them a very loud or silent hand clap. You know. So congratulations, and thank you very much for accepting the honor, the award of the African Theatre Association. It's no mean feat what you've managed to achieve, but like I said, we're looking for the many more contributions that you're yet to give the association and to our membership. I also want to thank my colleagues, the members of the AFTA executive. I want to thank all those who read the citations today. I want to thank Professor Praise Zeninga, Dr. Shola Adeyemi, Dr. Oladipo Agboluaje, Dr. Tiziana Morosetti. I also want to thank our membership secretary, Professor Annette de la Bridge. I want to thank everyone who's joined us today. We're so glad that you're able to join us to witness this auspicious occasion, really. Like I said at the beginning, this is the very first time we are doing this. This is going to be an annual thing for us in African Theatre Association, recognizing publicly the contribution of our distinguished colleagues in the field. So thank you very much, everyone. Thanks to our honorees once more, and bye-bye.
Thanks, Annette.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.